Title: Strategic Generosity: How Andrew Carnegie Turned Wealth into Lasting Public Good. Part 1. Early Problems: Why Philanthropy Mattered, Root Causes, Early Data, Effects, and Warning Signs. Introduction. Andrew Carnegie rose from poverty to vast wealth in industry. Later in life, he chose to give much of that wealth away on purpose, funding libraries, education, and public institutions. This first part explains why Carnegie's philanthropy mattered, the early problems it aimed to solve, the deeper causes behind those problems, the basic signs that public needs were failing, and the immediate effects of inaction that prompted his choices. The social problems Carnegie saw in the early days. Carnegie grew up in crowded working-class communities where schooling, public libraries, and cultural resources were scarce. Many workers faced dangerous jobs, low pay, and little chance to improve their situation. Towns near mills sometimes prospered, but also suffered pollution, poor housing, and limited civic services. These visible shortages, few places for self-education, weak public health, and weak social mobility inspired calls for action from people who had the means to help. Why strategic philanthropy mattered then. Giving money away randomly helps in the moment, but strategic philanthropy aims to create institutions that keep helping over time. Carnegie believed that funding public libraries, education, and research would give people tools to improve their lives for generations. Strategic gifts could build systems, libraries, scholarships, research centers that multiply impact rather than provide only temporary relief. Root causes that made public needs persistent. Several structural causes kept communities short of public goods. Rapid industrial growth outpaced public investment in schools and libraries. Local governments lacked tax bases or administrative capacity to build institutions quickly. Private employers often focused on production and profit rather than civic development. Cultural barriers and unequal access meant that many people could not benefit from limited services even when they existed. Simple, early indicators and statistics Carnegie cared about. In places dominated by heavy industry, literacy rates and school attendance sometimes lagged national averages. Public library branches were few, and per capita spending on education varied widely between towns. Worker injury rates in mills and mines were high compared with safer sectors. These measurable shortfalls showed where public investment was weak and where private philanthropy could produce clear improvements. Immediate effects of neglect and public failure. When communities lacked educational and cultural infrastructure, the consequences were practical. Young people had fewer pathways to skilled jobs. Civic life was poorer and less informed. Economic mobility stalled, and social tensions rose between wealthy industrialists and working neighborhoods. Neglect also worsened public health and limited local leadership capacity. Signs and symptoms that public systems were breaking. Carnegie observed clear signals: overcrowded schools, few or no public reading rooms, newspapers reporting high rates of illness or workplace accidents, and frequent charity appeals for basic needs. Political agitation and labor unrest were also signs that ordinary institutions were not addressing people's needs. These symptoms indicated that structural solutions, not only short-term charity, were required. Why was simple charity insufficient? Handed out cash or one-time relief eased immediate suffering, but did not build lasting opportunity. Without institutions, libraries that could be visited year after year, scholarships that funded study for decades, research centers that trained experts, gains faded. Carnegie saw that long-term improvement required investing in systems that taught skills, advanced knowledge, and strengthened civic life. What motivated Carnegie to act strategically? Carnegie's own story, learning through reading, valuing self-education, and rising by steady effort, informed his belief that public access to books and learning could be transformational. He also believed that the wealthy had a moral duty to redistribute some of their gains for public benefit in ways that encouraged self-help rather than dependence. Preview of Part 2. Part 2 will present the step-by-step model Carnegie used, how he identified high-impact projects, set conditions for gifts, built institutions that could sustain themselves, measured outcomes, and handled criticism. It will explain how strategic grants differed from charity and how Carnegie balanced private control with public benefit. Part 3 will examine long-term results, controversies, lessons learned, and a practical checklist for anyone who wants to design effective giving today. Part 2. Carnegie's step-by-step model. How to give strategically and build lasting institutions. Introduction. Andrew Carnegie did not give away money randomly. He used a plan. This part explains the steps he followed so his gifts kept helping people long after the check was written. Each step is shown in simple language you can use to think about big projects or community service. Step 1. Identify a clear public need. Carnegie looked for gaps that affected many people. No public libraries, poor schooling, weak research institutions. He chose areas where a single investment could create lasting benefit. Good philanthropy starts with a clear problem that lots of people feel. Step 2. Study the problem carefully. Before he gave money, Carnegie learned the facts. He visited towns, read reports, and talked with local leaders. He wanted to know who would use a library, how it would be staffed, and what long-term costs would be. Don't guess. Find basic data before deciding. Step 3. Pick high-leverage projects. Carnegie favored projects that could multiply impact: libraries, university endowments, and institutes for research. These create tools, books, scholarships, labs that many people can use over years. Look for projects where one investment helps many people repeatedly. Step 4. Require local commitment and matching support. Most Carnegie libraries needed local governments to provide the building site, operate the library, and promise ongoing funding. This skin in the game made sure communities cared for the gift. Matching requirements protect donors and make projects sustainable. Step 5. Set clear conditions and expectations. Carnegie's grants came with rules. A city must agree to support the library annually and make it free to the public. Conditions ensure projects work as intended. When giving, be explicit about responsibilities and outcomes. Step 6. Fund endowments, not just one-time costs. Carnegie favored endowments that generate income to pay staff and maintenance forever. An endowment is like a savings account. The project uses the interest so the principal stays intact. This turns a one-time gift into a lasting resource. Step 7. Design for local ownership and capacity building. He insisted communities run and staff the libraries. Local ownership builds skills and pride. Strategic giving trains people and institutions to continue the work independently, which prevents dependency on donors. Step 8. Pilot and scale what works. Carnegie often tested ideas through a few projects before scaling nationally. If a library model worked in several towns, it could be repeated elsewhere. Pilots reduce risk and show what to copy. Step 9. Standardize where helpful, allow local flexibility. He used common templates for library layouts and bookkeeping, but allowed towns to adapt hours, programs, and language. Standardization saves cost. Local flexibility makes services relevant. Step 10. Build governance and professional management. Carnegie funded professional librarians, trustees, and boards that managed libraries well. Good governance prevents misuse and keeps institutions focused on mission. Teach leaders how to run things before you leave. Step 11. Measure outcomes and require reports. He asked for simple reports on usage, finances, and staffing. Measuring shows whether the project helps people and where to fix problems. Use basic metrics: number of visitors, books loaned, classes held. Step 12. Link philanthropy to public policy when needed. Carnegie supported education and research that influenced public policy and workforce skills. Strategic giving can complement government action and sometimes inspire new laws or public programs. Step 13. Protect the gift with clear legal structures. He created trusts and foundations like the Carnegie Corporation that had legal rules to manage funds over time. A legal vehicle keeps money safe and makes sure the donor's intent lasts beyond the founder's life. Step 14. Communicate openly and manage reputation. Carnegie explained his reasons and published his views on giving. Transparency builds trust and reduces suspicion that gifts are self-serving. Good communication invites partners and prevents misunderstandings. Step 15. Plan exit and legacy thoughtfully. He planned how institutions would run without him: endowments, trained staff, and local support. Exit planning ensures continuity and prevents collapse when attention fades. Step 16. Use philanthropy to enable, not replace, public responsibility. Carnegie believed private giving should help communities do what government should eventually fund: libraries and education that eventually become public responsibilities. Aim to build capacity so public institutions can take over. Step 17. Balance breadth and depth. He funded many libraries widely, but also supported deep research centers and universities. A mix of broad access projects and focused investments creates both immediate reach and long-term innovation. Step 18. Adjust strategy over time and respond to criticism. Carnegie faced criticism over labor and business practices. He adjusted some approaches and defended others, but he also created institutions to host debate and study public issues. Be ready to learn, adapt, and explain choices. Concrete examples of the model in action. Carnegie libraries required a town to provide a site and yearly funding. He paid for the building and books. His foundations funded university chairs and research that trained leaders for decades. These examples show how rules, endowments, and local ownership made gifts last. Practical checklist to use for any big gift or community project. 1. Define the need clearly. 2. Research and visit local stakeholders. 3. Require local matching or operating commitment. 4. Fund endowment or ongoing costs, not just one-time purchases. 5. Set governance, hire professionals, and require simple reporting. 6. Pilot, measure, and then scale. 7. Plan for handover and public responsibility. How students can apply Carnegie's model in small ways. Help your school start a reading corner by asking the school to commit a space and schedule. Raise money for books, but get the school to promise upkeep. Run a pilot reading hour, measure attendance, and show results before asking for more funds. Small projects teach the same steps Carnegie used. Preview of Part 3. Part 3 will review the long-term effects of Carnegie's strategic giving, controversies it raised, the lessons learned about power and responsibility, and a final checklist you can use if you ever manage a large fund or community project. It will close with practical advice for responsible leadership and giving. Part 3. Legacy, Controversy, and How to Give Wisely. Andrew Carnegie's impact did not end when he sold his steel company. Long after the last Model T-style mill shut down, his money was still working through libraries, universities, and charities he created. His giving was not random. It was planned, targeted, and aimed at changing lives for generations. His library program alone funded well over 2,000 public libraries across the world. In many small towns, that library was the first place where children from poor families could read freely, study after school, and dream bigger than their parents. Over time, those spaces helped produce teachers, scientists, and leaders who might never have had access to books otherwise. Carnegie also poured money into education and research. Institutions like Carnegie Mellon University and the Carnegie Institution for Science trained engineers and scholars, supported major discoveries, and raised standards for teaching and learning. His foundations for teaching and ethics in public life helped improve how schools work and how professionals think about responsibility. He did not stop there. In his later years, he became deeply interested in world peace. He funded peace organizations and helped build the Peace Palace in The Hague, hoping that educated leaders and strong institutions could prevent future wars. Wars still came, and his dream was not fully realized, but his efforts pushed forward the idea that nations should talk, negotiate, and follow shared rules. At the same time, his legacy is not simple or purely positive. Many critics point to the Homestead strike and other harsh labor battles at his factories and ask whether his fortunes were built on low wages and unsafe conditions. They argue that giving money away later does not erase the harm done during the years of making it. Others question whether a single rich person should have so much power to decide which towns get libraries, which schools get funding, and which causes count as worthy. From his story, several lessons about power and responsibility stand out. How you make money matters as much as how you give it away. Tools like libraries, schools, and training centers can help people help themselves more than quick handouts can. Thinking in decades, not days, creates gifts that last far beyond one lifetime. And even when you are generous, you need humility, because real change usually requires listening to the people you want to help, not just imposing your own ideas. If you ever control money for a club, a project, or even your own future career, Carnegie's life offers a simple guide. Try to earn in ways that respect others. Be clear about what problem you are trying to solve. Support things that keep working after you step away, like skills, knowledge, and shared spaces. Involve the people affected in planning and decisions. Decide how you will know if your effort is truly helping, and always ask what will happen when your support ends. Carnegie's story shows that a poor telegraph boy can rise to incredible power, and that great wealth can be used to open doors for millions. It also reminds us that generosity does not cancel out injustice, and that the best kind of leadership tries to build fairness into both work and giving from the start. Your own legacy will be shaped not only by what you build or give, but by how you treat people along the way and how wisely you use the chances you are given.